Well, I want to welcome you today. We have a very good program and a very special guest with us. His name is Jeff Bell, and Jeff is the pastor of Westdale Community Church in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And Jeff is also an author. He has authored a book entitled, Did I Just Say That? And so, Jeff, I want to welcome you here today. Good
Appreciate
to have
it.
you with us. And I thought, as we start, Jeff, I'm thinking about words and words that we say. And unfortunately, some of the words that we say are words that are kind and loving and affirmative. But then, unfortunately, we speak words and they bring hurt. And those words that we speak, it's not like we can ever take them back. So I just want to, as we get going here, I want to read from James chapter 3, verse 7 and 8. All kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and creatures of the sea are being tamed and have been tamed by man, but no one can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. And so isn't that something? The power of words, the power to be able to build up or the power to destroy. But I think of the story of Isaac when he's going to bless, well, he was supposed to bless Esau, but it ends up being Jacob. And once that blessing was given, it wasn't like he could retract it. It's like throwing a baseball and hitting a window, and once that ball is released, it's not like you can somehow run and catch it before it breaks the window. I mean, the window's broken. It has happened. I mean, we can replace the window, but I think a lot of times our words can shatter, and they can really hurt. Okay, well, first of all, why don't we just talk a little bit about, you are a pastor at the Westdale Community Church in Cedar Rapids, and how has that been going for you?
Oh, great. I first came to Cedar Rapids 2003, took over the church at Westdale Community Church, been there ever since. We started a real exciting ministry about a year and a half ago, started up a food pantry. First month that we operated, we were open twice a month. I think we had about 10 families come through the door. Now we're up to about 60 families a month coming in, so it's been going really well.
Sounds like it's really been growing a lot too.
Yeah,
and it just shows there's just such
growing.
a need, for people.
Yep.
As far as but that's doing the Lord's work. That's so
Right.
God bless you. That's great that your church is into a mission like that and helping many people and many families, and so that is awesome. And we just have all the trust that will continue to go well. And,
Right.
Yeah, so you wrote a book entitled, Did I Just Say That? Okay, and here's the book. And so what inspired you to write this book? I mean, that's quite an accomplishment to be able to write a book.
Well, the book actually came out of a sermon series I did about 3 years ago. The sermon series is called The Powerful Influence of Words. And so when I did the sermon series, I saw the positive effect that it was having on my congregation. And so I got to thinking it'd be great to get this message out to more people than just my church. So then after the sermon series, God really began to lay upon my heart the importance of getting this message out there, that more people needed to hear this message. And so I just basically started with my sermons that I preached and developed them more into chapters, and ended up adding 4 more chapters. So from the time when I started it actually took about a year to write it during the whole process.
Okay, so writing a book, so that's one thing, when you just think about writing a book and it's many chapters, and you think, wow, I did it. But but there's more to it than that, isn't there? I mean, that's kind of where a lot of the work really begins then. So what all goes into, so you submit your manuscript to a publisher, and then the publisher will then decide whether or not they want to publish the book. And so once you say, Jeff, we read your manuscript, we really like what you have written, but now here's the work that we have to do. And so why don't you explain a little bit about that?
Well, when the manuscript was first sent in, I know this being my first book, I really thought that that's basically all the author did. It was that he just sent the manuscript, and I found out that it was just the beginning of the process. So after I located the right publisher, it went through an edit process, went through about 7 edits. And so the publisher would send the manuscript back to me. I would make the corrections. We would restructure sentences, add words, and end up taking out words. So we went through about 7 edits, and before we finally got to the point we could start marketing it.
So when they finally got through the 7th edit and they polished it up and it's now the finished product, I mean, that must have been just quite a thrill for you to say, wow,
Yeah.
look at this. My work is now in print. And
Right.
yeah, it must be, just really quite a satisfying accomplishment. And I noticed the format of your book, that you got a number of chapters here. You got 10 chapters.
Yep.
But at the end of each chapter, you have some study questions, I noticed.
Yep. Yeah, when I was actually writing the book, I decided to put the study questions in because I wanted it to be used by churches. And I thought that would be a good method to use, like for Bible studies, small groups. And so I decided, to be able to get the book out to reach a wider mass, I thought that would really help. So I've actually sent the book out to several pastors, asking them to consider using the book for small groups Bible studies, because it does have the challenge questions.
Well, that's one of the things that pastors are always looking for, because small groups are so important in a church. We're realizing that
Right.
the health of the church is getting people together and studying, and so pastors are always looking for some resource that will really be helpful as members of the church are gathering together for a small group ministry, and to be able to read a chapter and then have some questions. And when you think of like a small group, well, a lot of times they say, well, this would be like a 10-week
Yep.
small group where
Right.
you would gather together with some of your brothers and sisters in the Lord, and to read a chapter each time, and then to be able to go through those questions. Yeah. And I suppose that, well, I'm guessing that the book then can be used in other ways too. Well, you mentioned small group ministry.
Yeah, small groups Bible
Is
studies.
that primarily Bible studies?
Yep.
But I suppose if somebody just wanted to read this as an individual, just to
Sure.
say, well, I'm interested in reading this book, and I think I could, that would be, certainly to their advantage as well.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, I know when I first got the copies of the book, I gave them out to my people at church. And after they read the book, it had such an impact in their life that they actually gave it to friends. And they're starting to disperse the book out there for me.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so here again, the book is, did I just say that, with a question mark? And so if you were to kind of say, well, this is the book's thesis, or if you're to say in a nutshell, this is what this book is all about. So as you consider, people who may be watching say, oh yeah, I'm in a small group and we're looking for something to study, and to say, well, okay, what would be, the exact topic here that they would be learning about?
well, the main thesis of the book is the powerful influence that words have on us, on ourselves and other people. And so the book has 10 chapters, and each chapter is different, though. So depending on your situation, you can get something really good out of the book. If a person's looking to overcome worry or stress in their life through the words, they'll find it in the book. If they're wanting people to follow their vision, their plan, the book deals with that, deals with relationships, deals with anger. Somebody's angry at you. How can you appease their anger? So I think there's so many areas in our life that I think that words can really help us.
Yeah, those are a lot of real issues that we are dealing with today, like you say. And always are looking at ways that we can improve upon, our communication, because communication is so important in
Right.
relationships. And so when you think about the power of words, does this have to do with, for instance, self-talk? Because I know a lot of times we can
Self-talk, yep.
talk our way into a hole. I'm worthless, I'm no good, and then we just continue to get down further and further. Is it primarily self-talk, or would it also be what we
both.
speak to other people?
Yeah, both. I think sometimes God can give us a great plan for our life, and sometimes we ever step into that plan, we can actually talk ourselves out of doing it. We can, through our self-talk, we hear ourselves talking, and according to the Bible, faith cometh by words, and by the words that we hear. So sometimes I think if we even get started and do something great for God, we can talk ourselves out of doing it. And so what happens, our subconscious mind hears our words. Then our subconscious mind will relay those signals to our body, and we can either have the motivation or not have the motivation, I think, to step out and do something great for God. But I think so many times, because of our words, we can actually defeat ourselves before we even start the process.
Yeah, so it's just a lot of that reaching a higher potential then, just based on having that belief in God and that encouragement to say, instead of saying, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, but I can. I think that's why with the verse from Philippians 4:13.
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Right, I can. I can. Keep putting in your head, I can. I can. But I think, I talk to so many people where if the world isn't doing them in by just, all the critical talk that they are hearing, then they do it to themselves. And maybe it's just kind of a cycle. But even like with youth and kids, so many of them are saying, well, I'm bullied, and that bullying is not just physical bullying, but a lot of times it's verbal bullying, just being called this and called that, and pretty soon you just don't feel like you have any confidence to really even get up in the morning, much less do anything else. Okay, so this is all very important. This is all very important in our lives, is what do we say to ourselves, and what are we saying to each other? Because as I read from James, our words can be so destructive.
Sometimes, too, I want to add, sometimes we don't realize just how important our words really are. They claim that women speak 20,000 words a day and men speak 7,000. But yeah, when I first read that, I was thinking of the 7,000 words, how much influence are my words really having? And I think so many times we just speak words, but we're not really conscious of the effect those words are having. I think if people can read this book, I think it would really open up their eyes to so many things and areas in their life. I think they would learn to be more careful with the words that they speak. So just making people aware of the power of words.
The power of words. And the way that we communicate. I also think about 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 3. I can speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but if I have not love, then I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. I can have all wisdom and knowledge, and if I have no love, then what good is it? I can sacrifice my body to the Lord, but if I'm doing that in a way that's not upbuilding, then it can actually be destructive. It's counterproductive, and I think that's where the gift of love is so important. Well, let's just kind of take a look here. Okay, there are 10 chapters here, and I'll just kind of go through the chapters here quickly. The first one is your strongest muscle. The second is living worry-free. 3, when you're offended. 4, perception that leads to possession. 5, steamy hot to a cool breeze. These are good titles. 6, you possess what's confessed. 7, a caught vision is a caught vision, or is a cast vision. Okay, number 8, when criticism becomes constructive. Wow, that's a good title. Number 9, inspiring words lead to greatness. And 10, words of wisdom. And so I don't know, not that we have to go through the whole chapter, but maybe if we just kind of touched on each one of these titles a little bit. I mean, your strongest muscle. What would you say the strongest muscle would be here?
The tongue.
The tongue.
Yeah,
okay.
the tongue is the strongest muscle. It's the smallest member of the body, but the strongest.
The strongest.
The strongest member of the body. They actually claim that the tongue can lift up to 100 times its own weight. So in that respect, it is the strongest muscle.
Isn't that something? And it's strong because the words that we speak, can really, like we say, can either build up or break down. And, somebody takes their big, strong muscles of their arm and hits me, that's one thing. But if they say something to me that enters into my heart and my mind, that can even be more devastating if it's a real hurtful intent.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, well then, the second chapter is living worry-free. And so living worry-free, what would be kind of the focus on that one then?
We want to do to live worry-free. I think how we begin our day makes all the difference how our day goes. If we rise up and we're already complaining about our job and speaking forth negative words, we're probably going to have a pretty bad day. Yeah. If we can start our day by just giving thanks to God, just thanking God for what we do have, I think that creates a more positive mindset. So just, I think the words we speak in the morning are crucial.
Yeah. Well, I can see why people in your church really like hanging around you, rubbing shoulders with you. I mean, you're the kind of person that people need. You know, if you're out influencing people by your words in a positive way, and like you mentioned, you know, like you think of like Romans chapter 10 that you were quoting, you know, that the words of God, the power of God's word, to be able to bring salvation.
Right.
Isn't that something? Number 3 is when you're offended. Okay, well, we can easily get offended,
Oh, yeah.
no matter how thick our skin is.
Right.
And so that's what the focus is on what do you tell yourself when those things happen? Is that kind of the gist of that chapter then?
Yeah, I think sometimes when people get offended, what they do, instead of going to the party that offended them, they go to their relatives or friends. They get people to try to validate the hurt. And then the person that offended them has all these other people mad at them when the person just should have went to the person that offended them, try to get it cleared up. And sometimes it could just be something simple that was said. You know, that could be simply cleared up. But when we go to other people with our offenses, then we draw other people into that same hurt then.
We kind of get our little battle army together, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
And one thing that I noticed, Jeff, is, and I think that's maybe a little bit what you've alluded to, if I understand, is sometimes we can say something and what the person is hearing are two different things. It's like,
Right.
well, the person didn't even know that they offended you. You know, no, I didn't. I said that, but that's not how I meant it, so to speak. And so, like you
Right.
say, go to that person, get it cleared up,
Get it cleared up.
cleared up before it becomes, you know, a bigger problem. And then number 4, perception that leads to possession. So what would be kind of the gist of that chapter?
What that chapter deals with is our thinking process. We can actually think bad thoughts, and then we're going to speak those bad thoughts.
Okay.
And sometimes when we step out to do God's will, there can be obstacles in the way. There can be giants in the land, so to speak. And so what we got to do is that we got to keep our focus on God's promises instead of focus on the obstacles in our way. If we start focusing too much on the obstacles, then it's going to create that negative mindset. Then we're going to begin to speak it forth, which is going to reinforce the negativity. It's going to prevent us from moving forward.
Yes.
So we need to really stay focused on God's promises and keep speaking God's promises.
Because God gives us beautiful promises, powerful promises.
Right.
And so when we put our mind on Christ and those promises, that's going to certainly give us a far better attitude and a
Right.
focus, and if we're focusing on all of
Right.
the negative stuff out
Yeah.
there that can come.
Yeah, what's kind of neat about that chapter, used Israel when we went into the Promised Land.
Yes.
They went in there. They went in there. God gave them all these promises, and then they saw the giants in the land and so
Okay.
forth. So when they saw the giants, saw the obstacles, and it's almost like they forgot about God's promise. I think we can do that if we focus too much on the obstacles. We have a tendency to forget all the promises God made to us. And whereas we need to be more like Joshua and Caleb, you know,
Yeah.
come back and state God's promises.
Yeah.
Because no matter what obstacle, you know, the God that we all serve is still greater. He's greater than any obstacle that we're facing.
That's a great insight, because when the spies went in, some just saw the big obstacles or
Right.
the giants, but Joshua and Caleb, the difference, not to say that they didn't see the same thing, but they kept their focus on the promise. And this
Yep.
is what we're about.
Right.
And that God is going to help us to deal with those
Right.
big giants. Wow.
Yeah, and then if we start speaking negativity about it, then it can affect, like it affected 3 million people were influenced by the negative report of the 10 spies, even to the point that they wanted to go back in slavery.
Yes. Oh. Well, then number 5, a steamy hot to cool breeze. And would this have to do with anger then?
Anger, yep, that's what it is,
Okay.
anger. Yep. Sometimes in life there's going to be people that will be angry at us, so we need to try to find ways to appease their anger. And so what I bring out in that chapter, I bring out 4 steps we can take to appease the anger of somebody through our words.
Okay, very good.
I think, and I think one of the most important things is that we have to allow our emotions to cool down. Instead of speaking in anger back to the person, we need to get along with God and speak to God first. And then from there, then we're going to be an emotional place where we can go and we can try to reconcile with the person. But also you stated a real good point there. It's not always what we say, but how we say it. So if somebody makes us angry, if we resort right back with angry words, then it's going to create more friction. But if we can get our emotions under control, we can go with a more soft tone of voice, then the person's going to be more apt to listen.
Yeah, so communication is more than just the words, but how those words are said.
Exactly,
and a lot of that has to do with
the tone
of voice and facial expressions and things like that.
Right.
Well, then the 6th chapter is you possess what's confessed.
Yeah, in that particular chapter, I relate about Abraham and how Abraham kept confessing God's promise over the son that God promised to give him. And so he kept believing, he kept confessing that. And from the time that God gave him the promise to the time the promise was fulfilled was about 35 years. But yeah, during that whole time, Abraham did not stagger at the promises of God, but he kept confessing it. So even though we're not seeing the promise visibly manifested right away, what we need to do is that we need to still confess it. And we need to operate our faith in the present. I think so many times we look out, if things aren't changing, then we start speaking negative words about the situation, but we need to speak it into existence where we actually see it. Because what that does, that allows God to do it then in the supernatural realm for us.
Yeah. Then the 7th chapter is a caught vision is a cast vision. Okay, well that's quite a interesting topic there, or title. A caught vision is a cast vision.
Yep.
Yeah, so here again, having a vision is always important.
Right.
And what we visualize, so to speak, can make or break our day or our life. Oh, yeah, so how would you describe what's key there?
In that particular chapter, I share four steps, 4 ways to cast your vision so you can get people to follow that vision. And I think it's very, very important to be honest with people. We need to let them know what the situation is like right now. But then we need to create a visual picture in their mind how that vision can be fulfilled. So I think through our words, we can actually create visual pictures for people to see.
When we think about the Bible, there's visions. I think in Acts chapter 2 where that young men will see visions and the old men will dream dreams, or did I get it backwards there? But the whole idea of having a vision and having it all look, and I'd say like going back to the promise that we don't lose sight of the vision that God has for us. And it's easy to lose that in a day, especially when we become impatient where, God, it's been a whole day since I prayed about this. Why hasn't it happened?
Right.
And when you mentioned Abraham, well, it took 35 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so patience is a virtue, so to speak.
Yes, it is.
And then the 8th chapter is when criticism becomes constructive. Now that takes a special person when you can bring something tough up and actually turn it into constructive. Is that kind of what this is about? Or?
Yeah, it is. I think when we get criticism, it's very important that we try to determine whether or not it's destructive or constructive. I think there are some people that will be out there to hurt us. But I think there's other people God puts in our life that will share things to help us. I wonder in my own life, how many times has somebody offered something helpful to me, but because I took it the wrong way? The person was trying to help me, but I took it offensively and was not benefited by it. So I think it's very important that we understand the difference in criticism when it's given.
Yeah, that it's not necessarily here to chop you down as it's hopefully going to be useful and used in the right way, that it will actually help further you along.
Yeah.
But how we are, I think as humans we can be highly sensitive people sometimes.
Right. So in that particular chapter, we actually share with the readers exactly when somebody's giving you criticism, how you can determine whether or not it's constructive. So I think it's a very helpful chapter.
Yeah, because sometimes it's hard to know.
Right.
Is this person just tearing me down, or is this person trying to build me up?
Right.
Okay. And then the 9th chapter is inspiring words lead to greatness.
Yep, in that particular chapter, I bring out the value of compliments, how compliments can really help people to accomplish things. maybe that particular person was put down all their life, and that one person comes along and has a faith in them over something. When we actually verbalize that to that person, that could be the very thing that will inspire that person to move forward into greatness. So I think all of us have a tendency to try to live up to expectations that people have in us. So when we voice those expectations, then that person's going to try to live up to it usually.
Yeah. You know, so oftentimes I just think about people as they have received some kind of a reward or some kind of a success, and they will just thank all of the people who've helped them along the way. And
Right.
that always tells me that they made the difference. You know, if everybody in this person's life would have been knocking them down and criticizing him or her, you know, that they wouldn't be there. But these are the people who have uplifted them in
Right,
life.
right.
Okay, then the 10th and the final chapter is called Words of Wisdom.
Yeah, in that particular chapter, share about our words, and so to lead a sinner to Christ takes wisdom. And I think there's a wise approach that we need to take. It's more than just memorizing a plan, but I think we need to be really sensitive to people's needs when we witness. So the chapter really shares how we can use wisdom to lead somebody to Christ.
And that in itself, you know, when you think about how many of us are thinking, how can we help bring people to come to Christ? It's not such an easy thing, but that chapter will give some good insights on that. And now I understand that, you know, we can get the book. Here again, did I just say that? We can get this book on Amazon.com. Are there other places right now? I know you're trying to work on getting them into bookstores and
Yes,
stuff.
I am. Yes, I am.
Yeah. But right,
Yeah, I think the best place to get would be Amazon.com. They do have discounts there, and any orders over $35, you don't have to pay any shipping fees.
yeah, so very good. So a great resource, a great book for small group settings, and you can get this book on Amazon.com. It sounds like a great study. And so, Jeff, just thank you so much. Thanks for coming
Yeah,
and
good to be here.
sharing,
Appreciate you letting me
sharing
come.
your person with us and your faith, and congratulations on this wonderful work, this book.
Appreciate
And
that.
I want to thank all of you for joining us this day as well.